Tim Blankenship is the owner of Divorce661.com, a company that specializes in California divorce. They provide professional and affordable divorce services all across California. To learn more, go to Divorce661.com. Now, back to the program. Tim Blankenship is the owner of Divorce661.com, a company that...
Hello everybody, Tim Blankenship with Divorce661.com. A little bit of technical issues this afternoon. It's our first live event, so to be expected, even though we did several test trials yesterday. Everything seemed to go fine, and then today we had a little bit of issues. So we are right on track now. We have some slides set up for you, and we're hoping to do this every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific to give folks information about divorce in California, to give people an opportunity to ask questions live. And for that, we have Twitter set up, and you can ask us questions on Twitter by simply asking your question and using the hashtag divorce661.com. I'm sorry, that's not correct. Hashtag divorce661. If you put that hashtag in, we do have a search set up where we will see your question. So hashtag divorce661. Any questions during this live event or any live event in the future? You can also go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/divorce661, and that'll take you to our Facebook page, and we're watching that and monitoring that now if you have any questions. Other than that, we have prepared some slides with some basic information, tell you a little bit about who we are as a company, why we're doing what we're doing, and go over some of these frequently asked questions that we get on a daily basis. So hope you enjoy. So what we're going to do is first off start by telling you a little bit about who we are. And let me change the slide here. So we are what's called legal document assistants. We are licensed and bonded in the state of California to provide legal document preparation. We're not attorneys, we're not a law firm. So the two things we don't do is not give legal advice, and we don't represent you in court. But outside of that, we are able to have a direct client relationship as an attorney would and work with you directly one-on-one without any attorney supervision. We had to pass certain tests. We had to have a certain amount of education and get licensed and bonded. So it is watched over carefully to make sure we're not out there pretending to be attorneys. So what we provide, our company specializes in divorce only in California. That's all we do. In fact, we've become the go-to people in California if you're looking to get an affordable divorce. And that's what it's all about, getting an affordable divorce, going through the process with a company like us. We do provide a full service process where we will do everything you from A to Z, everything a law firm would do for you. We'd fill out the forms, go to court, file them for you, serve them anywhere in California. So when I say go to court, locally we have a company that takes our documents each and every day down to all the county courts. But if you're out of area, which we have many, many clients, those folks we're filing those documents by mail, and we have a relationship with the courts. So we are that alternative to hiring an attorney. We have lots of experience in doing divorces in California. We've actually worked for the court system for several years. We worked for the self-help clinics and for the local family law attorneys. So we've seen things from different perspectives, from the court perspective to law firm perspective, self-help clinics, helping people that are representing themselves, which we're doing now as a paid service. Now, we will run you through the exact same process as you would if you had an attorney or if you were doing it yourself. We have all the court documents, all the court forms, everything we need to get you through the process. And we are a neutral third party, so we don't need to use any other service or any other person involved. We can work with both you and your spouse to get you through the divorce. And we are that full service divorce solution. We provide a full service process, which means we don't leave anything up to you. We fill out all the forms personally by hand. Well, we type them up actually. We go to court for you and file the documents. We serve them, do all the process and procedures so you don't have to worry about it. And we will do all the judgments, agreements. We have all the court software as far as the Distomaster to get you the spouse support numbers, child support numbers, and things like that. Let's look at the next slide here. Okay, so I think we talked a little bit about this. I should have changed the slide a little sooner. So we complete all the documents, we file them with the court, prepare all financial disclosures, all the agreements, and assist with child support and spouse support. So, okay, let's go on to some frequently asked questions. One thing we've noticed over the years of doing this is we get the same questions over and over and over again when people call us, and they're the right questions to ask, and then we'll follow up with questions they haven't asked as well. So one of the first things that we get asked is, how long is the divorce process? How long does the divorce process take? And I always tell people when they call, there are two answers to that. The first answer is divorce takes 6 months. And when I say that, that means that the soonest you can get your divorce finalized is 6 months. The 6-month cooling off period, as they call it in California, is there to give the parties a chance or an opportunity to reconcile before the divorce is finalized. And it's a good policy because you can imagine if you had people filing for divorce and it could be done within the same day or same week, how many people would have decided that was a mistake and had to get remarried. So it is good that there is a 6-month cooling off period. Now, I said that there's two answers to this. The second answer, and let me just put the webcam back on. The second answer is that you can complete your divorce in as soon as 30 days from a paperwork perspective. So it won't be finalized until 6 months has passed. And that date, by the way, starts when your spouse is served. That's what starts the clock on the 6-month waiting period. But we can get your case done in as soon as 30 days, and we generally do that. I'd say 90% of the cases we file in California, we're doing just after the 30-day mark. And that's because of the certain court policies and procedures that has to deal with default cases that we're able to submit them within 30 days or after 30 days at the very soonest. And we're finding that we're getting the judgments approved within 90 days of starting. So what's happening is we're getting divorce cases done so quickly that you'll get your judgment, you'll be divorced, the judge will sign off on it. However, the effective date of your single status will be 6 months plus a day after the day your spouse was served. So we're routinely getting divorce cases finished, and the people get their documents back and they say, Tim, why does it say, 2 months from now before I'm actually divorced? And it's because of the 6-month cooling off period. Let's take a look at the next slides. I hope that answers the question about how long divorce takes. The soonest is 6 months. And the reason I want to bring that up again is because people will call us that have been in the process for a year, and they'll say, well, I thought this only takes 6 months, but you have to push the paperwork through yourself if you're doing it on your own. Otherwise, we'll do it. But the soonest it can be approved by the judge is 6 months. Okay, the next question, will I have to go to court? This is a big question that we get, and the answer is probably not. Excuse me. Probably not. If you're going through an amicable, 1 second, I'm going to take a little break so I can get a drink of water.
Specializes in California divorce. They provide professional and affordable divorce services all across California. To learn more, go to divorce661.com. Now, back to the program.
Okay, I'm really glad I had that bumper made so I could take that little water break without coughing all over you. So will I have to go to court? And I was saying the answer is probably not. You only will have to go to court if you don't come to an agreement regarding the circumstances of your case. So if you don't come to an agreement on things like, oops, I changed the slide by accident. Let me switch that back. If you don't come to an agreement on something, then you have to go to court to have the judge decide that for you. If you come to an agreement on all the terms, and we're talking about distribution of assets and debts, all your property, who's getting what, if you come to an agreement on child support, spouse support, and all of these agreements that are wrapped up into a divorce case, you won't have to go to court. People think that they have to go to court to let a judge decide things, and that's not true. I would say of our uncontested cases, we'll be talking about that a little bit more here in the next few minutes, but in an uncontested divorce case where both parties are working together, at least somewhat cooperatively, and they don't want to get the court involved, they won't have to go to court. The court will not get involved in many of the decisions that you make. In fact, there's only one thing the court will stick their finger or stick their nose into, and that has to do with children. They want to make sure that children are taken care of. But how you decide to agree upon the distribution of your property, of your assets, your debts, if you want to have spouse support or anything like that, the court, if you are in agreement and sign a written agreement together, the courts will pretty much allow you to do anything you want. They know that you're both involved, and they know you're making these decisions in your own best interest. So they won't get involved at all. So to that end, you won't have to go to court unless you can't come to an agreement. Some of our cases, say, Tim, we're not in agreement, but we can't afford an attorney, but can you get us started and get us into the system? Which we can. We can file the necessary documents to get the court process started, get the forms filed, and get a hearing set up for you if you ultimately need a judge to make the decisions for you. But I'll tell you, that's not always the best way to go, because when you are asking a judge to make an order, someone who doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, and is going to spend about 15 minutes with you and making a decision about your divorce and the terms of it, that's usually not a good way to go, and it's always better to come up with a plan and come up to an agreement. To come to an agreement on your own, it's always going to be a better agreement if you're making the decisions yourself than having some third party or some judge make these decisions for you. That's really the point I was trying to get across. Okay, now we're going to talk about what an uncontested divorce case is, because there's some misunderstandings on what that means. So if we look at what uncontested means, it's talking about the word contest. So a contest is when you go to court and see a judge. That's contested. Anything outside of that is uncontested. So until you get a judge involved, your case is uncontested. Now you can be in disagreement with your spouse. You can not agree on terms initially, but as long as you're not in the court system, you're not involved with the court or have court dates or hearings set, you're still an uncontested case. As people say, Tim, I don't have an uncontested case. I'm not in agreement with my spouse. We have a disagreement on one or two issues, and that could be spouse support, or you can't come to an agreement on how to divide up your property, something like that. Well, that's not contested. It just means you guys aren't fully in agreement yet, and there is time to work through your issues either on your own or what we suggest. And it's easier if I just give you a scenario. We have clients that start with us, and they thought they were in agreement. They thought everything was squared away, but then a few weeks, months down the road, they call us and say, Tim, we're not in agreement on how much spouse support to pay, let's say. So what we'll do is we'll suggest that they either take a few more days or weeks to try and figure it out on their own, or if they need professional assistance, mediation, a mediator to sit down with them and help them work through that issue, that would be their next best step. So we have clients that walk one of 3 or 4 paths. They come to our office, we assist them all the way through, start to finish, both spouses, case complete, no outside assistance. Other times we have clients call us, they think it's going to be uncontested and they think they're going to be able to get through, no problem with no other attorneys or anything like that, but they get stuck. And like this issue with spousal support, what we'll do is we will have them go and see a mediator. I'm just checking our Twitter feed to see if we have any other questions coming in. We'll have them talk to a third-party mediator who will actually sit down with you and help you work through those specific issues. Or the third option is it just goes totally sideways and they end up with attorneys anyways. The fourth way people come into our office is they know they need an attorney, but they want to have us do a lot of the paperwork until they get to the point where they need to go to court. And probably one last is when people have been already divorced and they need to modify orders, spousal support orders, child support orders. We do a lot of that as well. I wanted to go back to the third idea that the people that end up getting an attorney, well, let me back up one step. I want to say that 90% of the clients that start with our service never have to get any other third-party service. They're able to get all the way through the case. We're able to finish them up. They come to all their agreements. We help them through the entire process, and they don't need any other assistance. And I would say 5%, so 90% all the way through, no problem with our service. 5% need some additional mediation services that we referred out. They will get that one issue, in this case spousal support, addressed. They'll come to an agreement on that, and then they come back to us. We'll document the agreements and submit their case, and they're done. The other 5% started with us. We got them all the way through the paperwork, but they couldn't get that final agreement. And then something happened where they got upset with each other and they went out and hired attorneys. That happens a little bit as well. But we're not really in control of what those folks are doing. So just keep that in mind. So, and in those cases where people went to attorneys, it's not that they lost any money spending it on our services. In fact, they probably saved several $1,000s having used our services up to that point, because our services are a lot more affordable than using an attorney. So for instance, the initial process of divorce is just filling out forms. It's filling out the initial divorce paperwork, getting that filed with the court, and getting that served on the other party. That's what starts that clock in the 6 months we were talking about earlier. Number two is to prepare the financial disclosures. Both spouses need to prepare financial disclosures and serve them on each other. And it's basically saying, here's all the stuff of the divorce, of the marriage that I'm aware of that's subject to division. And, here's all the stuff. I'll show you yours, I'll show you mine, you show me yours, basically. And that's disclosure, saying this is what I know we have to divide. After that, it's documenting your agreements. So we basically break this down into 3 steps: the filing and serving process, the preparation of financial disclosures, and then the preparation of the agreements. And if we get up to that point and you just get stuck and mediation isn't going to work and it totally goes sideways and you need attorneys, you probably would have saved $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 just in paperwork for an attorney to do the same thing we just did leading up to that point. So there's no harm in using us even if you need an attorney. Like some people call and say, Tim, I know I need an attorney, we're not in agreement, but I don't want to pay the attorney to prepare the paperwork. That doesn't make any sense. Why am I going to spend $400 an hour to have them file the initial paperwork and do financial disclosures and all that? So we have some folks that come to us and say, well, we're just going to use you up to this point and then we're moving on, and that's the plan from the beginning. So I don't see any more questions coming in. I did want to talk about uncontested, which we did a bit here. Uncontested cases, parties are working together. They're making an attempt. I'm not saying you're going to be the best of friends. I mean, this is a divorce, but we have clients routinely come in together and get through their case. Usually no court. Again, we talked about that. If you're in agreement, you don't need to go to court. It's funny. Some people will say, well, we'll just, I'm just looking at I misspelled together. But we'll come in and say, well, we'll file for a divorce and we'll see what the judge says. That's not how it works. You're going to enter into a written agreement. We'll put those written agreements down into what's called the judgment, and then we'll submit the judgment. Your divorce will be signed off by the court and finalized, and then all you need to do is comply with your agreements that you came up with. So that's all I have for you today. We are going to do this every Thursday at 1 o'clock. And just so you know, we are setting up, and I'm very excited about this. Right now I'm in my office where I meet clients, but we are getting a separate studio set. We'll probably have that ready maybe by next Thursday, but definitely by the first Thursday in July. But we're very excited about doing that. We're going to be doing interviews. We're really going to step up our game, because if you've come across our videos, you know that we have so much information out there about divorce in California. We have our podcast that's daily 5-day-a-week podcast. They're anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes with tidbits of information, specific information, how-tos, tutorials, and all of that. We have the podcast. We have hundreds of videos out on YouTube on the same channel, how-tos. And that's how a lot of people find us. And now we have this live cast, which we're going to be doing every Thursday, which is broadcasted live. You may be watching this live, or you may be watching this in a recorded fashion on our YouTube channel. But make sure to check back Thursdays. You can just go right to our blog at divorce661.com. Click on the live cast button at Thursdays at 1 o'clock and hit the play button on the player. And we will have you'll see the live streaming. And again, you'll be able to ask questions, and it's all about information is our goal. That's why we have the podcast, live cast, and the YouTube videos, and have all this information out there. Plus our blogs. I think we've written over 1,000 articles about divorce in California. So lots of good information out there. And now one more resource for folks trying to get information. What we're hoping with this podcast, and I wasn't expecting callers on this initial broadcast. I was hoping people wouldn't actually, but people had found out about it early, and because I didn't know how this was going to go, if we were going to have system issues and so forth. But we're planning on having later the ability to call in, the ability to get us by chat. And of course, today we used Twitter and Facebook as the ability to communicate with us if you had questions. But this is just one more way that we can help people if they want to call in and they, hey, Tim, how do we do this? We can provide as much information as we can. Keep in mind, we're not a law firm, so we're not going to be giving legal advice. We're not going to be representing people in court and that, giving people advice. So we have to walk that fine line. We're prohibited from doing that. But we can talk to you about policy, procedures, forms, form completion. What do you do? We're not going to tell you what you say, Tim, what's the law say about X? We're not going to be able to answer those questions. But we will in the future hopefully have some attorneys on. We're setting up a studio, as I mentioned. Very excited. We're going to have it where it's either multi-camera or where it captures both of us, and we can interview folks and hopefully answer questions about the law. So we'll be able to take care of that as well. We're glad to be at the forefront of this live cast. We have done so. We've been at the forefront of marketing in the legal industry from the beginning with our blogs and then with our podcasts and videos. And I would be surprised if we are not the first legal services provider anywhere in the U.S. to provide a live broadcast, question and answer, interview style process. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we will talk to you soon.
Tim Blankenship is the owner of Divorce661.com, a company that specializes in California divorce. They provide professional and affordable divorce services all across California. To learn more, go to Divorce661.com. Now, back to the program. Welcome to Divorce Master Radio.